Okay, so I started to record this training session for you guys. Also, um, I shared with you another webinar uh, similar to what I will do today. And let's start. Um, Please let me know when you can see my screen.
I can see it.
Brilliant. Okay, so usually I am using, I'm holding in the same folder these two configuration files for configuration and user mapping, and also the migrator tool. And in this one, in this text file, I'm having only the command line to run the migration easier, to not make a construction each time for each project migration that I need to do. So this is the configuration file, which is splitted on several parts. For example, ALM configuration, which will be the location for ALM, project name, project domain, username, password, and also the server time zone where where the DB of QC is installed to make the correct transformation or converting of time zone, for example, for comments, entities creation, and to migrate as it is in Octane and to match in both environments.
Okay, so since we're SaaS, would we just have to get that information from Veronica, or how would we know where our server is if we're SaaS?
Good
not
question. It's a good question,
Please
Veronica.
let me
Do you
know
know?
because I have no idea. I guess by
Or is that
submitting a
just-
ticket, the people should be able to provide it. Just explain that this is that you are planning to migrate projects from ALM to Octane, and one of the requirements is to have this information so they can provide it. Because I don't even
Also-
have access to see how to get it, but I guess the
Also-
team should be able for sure to get it. Yeah.
Veronica, maybe you know if Octane it will be on the same farm or server of QC, of their QC.
It's not, because Octane is in AWS, if I am not mistaken. ALM is in our data center in Austin, so it's not.
Okay.
But it's going to be the common environment they have. I mean, you have access to it. I don't know if you have a way to get it. If you can verify it, it's exactly the same environment they are going to be using.
I'm muted. I just want to make sure.
Directly.
Oh, I was in North Lamar. I was here. I just wasn't at my desk. No, I was at North Lamar. I'm always in.
Okay, so this is the Octane configuration.
So,
For example,
sorry to interrupt you. Just so Scott, just to answer your question, just please submit a ticket under the ALM Octane on the SaaS portal. And if you have any problems, let us know. But just say, you know what, I need this information because I'm running this tool, and they should be able to provide it. Should not be a problem. Okay. You're on mute, Scott, in case.
Yes, I was on mute. So even though this is the ALM server configuration, it's okay to submit that ticket on the ALM Octane support.
Of course, absolutely. Yes. Anyways, you have Octane. You have Octane as part of your products. So you can submit a ticket under Octane. That is for sure. It's not a problem. If you have any problems, let me know, but you shouldn't.
Okay.
Go ahead, Andre. Sorry for the interruption.
Okay, no worries. Okay, so for ALM configuration, as I already said, you need to add the location of ALM QC, the project name, project domain, as it is in QC with capital words or capital letters or small letters, username and password. For ALMQC, and I recommend to be a system admin user to have permission because inside of the configuration file, you will maybe have to map some custom fields. In Octane, is not possible to have multiple custom fields for different type of entities with the same label. And to do that, you will need to have access to this name of the custom field to map inside of the configuration file. In here is the Octane configuration, location, shared space, workspace, client ID, and client secret. For shared space and workspace, Migrator tool is supporting to migrate to identify also by ID of the shared space and workspace. And also if you are write the workspace name or shared space name inside of the configuration file. It's up to you to choose which method is better for you. For ALM configuration also, you will need for start to create a new workspace. I will write TVC training. I will add also my user. After creating the workspace, you will need to create another API key. Let's say training, and assign the role workspace admin to your workspace created, and also adding one more role, which is space admin. Automatically will generate a client ID and client secret. I'm just copying this information, and I open the API and paste it inside of the description field. It's much easier to not forget these two keys. So, for example, let me see. Inside of the configuration file, I will need to change, for example, the name, WC training. I will paste the client ID and also the client secret. And for the Octane configuration, it's just these um, informations that you need to do inside of the configuration file. These two parameters are only for to allow to migrate the test plan folders and test lab folders for manual tests and test sets. The root folder name, it will be the name that you will give to inside of the application module. For example, I called subject, which is the main root folder from QC. Which is this one, and the other root folder name, it is changed. It's not like in QC, but it's for test lab folder structure migration. The application module mode, I set it to merge. There are 4 modes to migrate the application, these folders. Merge, bottom up, flat, and none. More details about these modes are in inside of the user guide. The application module maximum depth is the value of how many subfolders do you want to migrate. I set it to 14. By default in Octane, let me open Octane. By default for maximum 3 depth application module, it will be set it to 4, not 10 as I have in here. Also, the maximum 3 depth value is 20, supported by Octane. If I left, for example, unchanged with a value of 10, and I had in here 14, when the migrator tool will migrate those folders, it will show me an error about this application maximum depth. This parameter is for setting the extension of history. History will be migrated over as an attachment. You have for now only 2 options, HTML or XLS. You can configure in here. Migrate all lookup lists parameter is to migrate also the lists that are not used only for inside of the ALM project. For example, if I have 2 particular lists created on this project, but they are not used inside of any kind of field, without that parameter, it will not be migrated. If you want to be migrated that specific list, you will need to add this parameter inside of configuration file. thread count is for the performance of migration, how many entities should be treated by once. This parameter is allowing to assign the users available from shared space to a specific workspace that you will migrate. I forgot to tell you, if you have any kind of questions, feel free to interrupt me. The next parameter is for user mapping file path. Being in the same folder, it's enough only to have the name of the file with extension. The maximum field character length is for migrating, to allow to migrate only 100,000 characters for string fields. For example, if you have a field, if you have in description more than 100,000 characters, it will be truncated and will migrate only until 100,000 character.
Hey, Kuzman,
Yeah.
we have another individual that's trying to join the meeting, and he says he's getting a notification that he's not joining the meeting, but he's getting a notification that says they've notified the host that he's trying to join.
Let me see. Okay. Everyone, could you please send this web address to join? And please tell me if he or she could join or not.
Okay, I sent it.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Just a quick note, I will start to do the migration to see exactly how it will look like inside of Octane, and to not waste much time. It will take around 15-20 minutes to migrate, and until I explain everything about the configuration file, I hope it will be done, the migration.
Okay.
Did he or she joined? I'm not think so.
I don't know. I sent the link. He hasn't responded yet. Are you going to go over the user mapping configuration
Yep.
file also?
Yes, yes. Should I continue or just wait?
How long do we have? Well, we may go ahead and continue. I'm not sure how long, if we're planning on using up the entire time.
Okay. Just a quick question. If I will not be done to explain everything in 1 hour, do you have much time, more time to um, stay in today's meeting, or it will be just scheduled for 1 hour?
Um,
I'm not sure. I do have a meeting right after this, but I'm not 100% sure I'm required.
Okay, in that case, I will try to speed up a
think
little bit.
I am not required. I don't think I'm required for this next meeting. So I can stay.
okay, and I was going to say if we can just get like what can go in each of these fields, if we're getting, I know you sent some documentation. I'm not sure if that's included.
All these parameters used inside of the configuration file and user file will be available inside of the user guide PDF.
Okay, cool. And then, so I think, you know, I just wanted to make sure we were getting that information. Did you already send that to us or not yet?
Yeah, I already sent it.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
You're welcome. Okay, so let's go forward. This parameter is to allow to have a limit for custom fields of type string, and if in those custom fields will be more characters than 100,000, those fields will be truncated and splitted during the migration. Over this limit, any kind of text or any kind of string will not be migrated over. It will be lost. And also this is the maximum value of supported by Octane. This parameter is allowing to migrate the design steps to description also, not inside of the steps tab as being part of manual test. Requirement query configuration is for migrator tool to know exactly if the requirement entity, it is a folder or requirement document, and to assign to assign correctly during the migration. Lookup list configurations, which will be needed to map only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 system lists. The first one is bug status, and is very um, important to map the values from ALM QC for each these 5 system lists. For example, if your organization in QC are using for priority list other than these default values, for example, you will have small, large, and very small, for example. Though these 3 values, you will need to change inside of the priority list because you are not using these 5 values. And also you can map, sorry.
I understand. Yes.
So you will need to map, and you have the possibility to map accordingly to these 5 values being by default in Octane. So this kind of thing of mapping you will need to do for all these five lists. For example, if you want to migrate only the manual tests, in that case you can delete this list from configuration file. You'll not need to map this list bug status. And also for plan status if you don't use. The next main parameters are field configurations. This set of parameters is allowing the field type from ALM QC to be migrated over as an UDF inside of Octane with this label. And also it is enabled. If I don't want to migrate this particular field, I just need to type in here false. And it will not be migrated over.
Okay. So aside from the 5 system fields that were above this, they get migrated over. The additional field configurations that need to be that we want to have moved over needs to be added to this field configurations list.
No.
No.
For you are asking for custom fields or system fields.
Right. Other than the 5 that are above. Yes.
From these 5, you mean?
No. Any other field that's not one of those.
No.
I mean,
No.
there's a list. I mean, there's I don't know. There's 50 fields. Let's say there's 50 fields in ALM, right? And so we've only identified 5 system fields that are going to migrate over. What about all the other ones?
No, the system fields will be migrated over each type, which is supported by migrator tool. Let me open fast functional scope. Okay, and for here, for example, go a little bit down. Here in functional scope, you will see exactly which entity will be migrated over inside of Octane. And also for each entity type, what system field will be supported to be migrated over. For example, the defect ID from QC for defects, for example, it will be migrated over as a custom field in Octane. And also,
so that's done automatically. That doesn't necessarily have to go in the config file.
yes,
Okay,
exactly.
got it.
And also for custom fields. But there is only one exception. For example, if you have in ALM QC for manual tests or for defects, you will have 2 custom fields with the same label. Only one of these 2 these two custom fields you will need to map over inside of Octane. For example, if I will create now, just for test, the test one field, during the migration, I will have this it will show me an error that in Octane is not supported um, to migrate one of these two custom fields, and you will have to map inside of the configuration file.
Okay, right, I understand.
The run execution date is mandatory to be true for manual runs to in Octane, the execution date is mandatory field, and if this will be false, all manual runs will fail during the migration. Here is the configuration for migrating the comments and attachments. If you are setting the value false to enabled, you will disable to migrate comments and attachments. It's optional to do for you guys. Also, for migrating during the migration of defects inside of the description field, it will be migrated over also the priority and estimated fixed time fields. If you are not willing to migrate inside of the description, you can just delete this parameter. Same for requirement documents for rich text. And this parameter is for the targets release cycle, for target cycle from QC to be migrated for requirement document with the type data type field long string with the name in Octane and also the label in which will be displayed in Octane. And the last part of the configuration is default values configuration for each type of entities. For defects, for example, if you have one entity without phase and severity, during the migration will be migrated over as new and severity low. Same for other entities. For manual runs in Octane, the release field is mandatory. So during the migration, you will have errors and will fail if you will not have this mapping inside of the configuration file. So that's why I called unassigned. And inside of Octane, it will create automatically one release with this name, unassigned. I will show you just in a second. Also, let me open another command prompt. Also, you will have few different migration modes. The first one is preview mode, which is very important to do before each migration. If the project is very large, is not needed to let's finish this preview mode. Also, inside of before that, I will recommend to install the Java 8 on 64-bit to allow to set up the to increase the Java heap size for migration to allow generate the HTML report. During after
And this is the system that you're running the migrator tool on, right?
yes, I'm running locally.
Okay, yep.
So we do have Java 8 on our machines.
Yeah, I think we're good.
Okay, and for big projects, I will recommend to have installed the 64-bit. Also, during the before any kind of migrations, you will need to set up the Java heap space menu, heap space size, and adding this parameter, I will allow to access to migrator tool access and use 8 gigabytes for that heap size. You can increase it or decrease it, this value. It's up to you. Okay, so this will be the preview mode by adding this parameter preview. In this mode, the migrator tool will only checks the connectivity between ALM QC server and Octane server. It will be matching, or if it's the right workspace or project to migrate, the customization list, the custom fields, if you will have any kind of issues, and so on. And also the entities.
Is it possible for us to? We have a preview, a test site right now in Octane. So could we export to our test version that we have, and then once we check it out, put it into our production version?
Yeah, you can do that.
Okay.
Okay, so one migration is having more stages. It's also documented inside of the user guide. Let me open it. That also too. Just a second. Yes. The migrator tool is having more stages, a few stages. The first stage is start, migrate users, analyze, migrate lists, migrate user-defined fields, prepare migration plans, migrate folder items, which will be the test folders and test set folders migrating inside of the application module, migrating the list items, and starting to migrate the artifacts, which will be the entities, requirement folders, requirement documents, defects, manual tests, test sets, and manual test runs. In this order will be migrated over to Octane. Migrate history, if you are migrate the history, and the last one will be complete. For user mapping, let me open the user file. There are not very large parameters to configure. You will need to set up the default Octane user ID. In case of, for example, you don't want to migrate one particular user, that user from QC will be migrated over as a default Octane user ID set it inside of this configuration. You can add also the default Octane user role for that workspace. Also, for mapping a particular user, you can map with the ALM user ID, the role, and the Octane ID. For example, if you are using same login name or email address inside of the both environments, ALMQC and Octane, you will not need to map those users. Only if those are already assigned inside of the workspace. If are not assigned, it will be needed to map accordingly inside of the configuration file, and the migrator tool will assign those users automatically inside of Octane. But also, no, scratch that. If you are not using, if the user is not assigned to the workspace, even it will be assigned automatically if they will have same login name or email address, and you will not need to map up inside of this configuration file. Okay, so yep.
If a user exists in ALM, does not exist in ALM Octane, and we're just migrating the project and all the users over to Octane, we do not have to put anybody in that list.
No.
If they're coming over with the same email address, same username, same
it's
user
it's not migrating. It's not migrating the users. It's only assigning For example, I already have few users already created inside of Octane
Right.
with uh, email address and login name matching to
Okay.
ALM QC.
Okay.
And if I don't assign, for example, one particular user to this workspace, it will be assigned also automatically by the tool. If you want, for example, if you have one user with a different user ID or email address, you will need to map inside of Octane, inside of the configuration file. Sorry.
A question for you, and correct me if I am wrong, but even, I mean, during this process, the users must be created in Octane as well, right? Because many of the users do not have access to my account.
That was going to be my question also, is that,
Yeah.
so what he just said is that you're only assigning users to a workspace, but that means that all of the users that are in ALM need to already exist in ALM Octane.
Exactly. The user
Correct.
need to be existing inside of Octane.
So they must be in the system first before you do this upgrade if you want this to work.
Right. Just the role assignments.
Yeah,
Correct.
The workspace and role assignments.
exactly.
Got it. Okay. Understood.
Okay, so for example, so do you have more time for the meeting? It's left on only 5 minutes, um, as we planned to this training session.
Scott, do you
I
and
can. I can. I think I can. I can stay for another maybe 30 minutes.
Siva?
The other meeting is for the GSI Octa gaps. So I don't necessarily know that I need to be at that one.
Okay. For migration,
But Siva's on. I don't know if Siva can stay.
No, he's got a release this evening, so he's going to get off.
Okay.
Scott, I mean, I think a lot of it's the same, and then just when we get to the details is where we're going to need your help.
also I will share with you the recording of this session and also the other webinar.
Right. Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay, so to run the migration in migrate mode, you just need to delete that preview parameter. And if I press enter, it will start to do the migration. Let me see.
Okay. So I was going to ask about that, the preview part. So the preview part, it goes through and tests all of the parameters. And that's just to identify any issues earlier on before the migration actually starts, correct?
Exactly.
Okay, and then so after that, there's nothing to actually look at other than the log file. If this log file here, the output on your command prompt window, if that does not come back with any errors, then you can go ahead and do the migration. But if it does come up with errors, then you just fix whatever errors it logged before doing the actual migration.
Exactly. And also there will be cases when inside of the preview mode will not show you any kind of error, and when you start to migrate, it one custom field with the same label warning. It's sometimes it's happening, but it's okay. If it's only on that part, it will not start to migrate the actual entities. It's only trying to migrate the customization. And for example, if I rerun again the migration, I will duplicate my entities, but without um, the customization migration. We ran already the migration. If I'm starting again right now, I will duplicate all my entities.
Okay.
Um, I will duplicate all entities, but the customization itself, it will not be duplicated.
Sure.
So,
Understood.
The migration was finished. Right at the end will be a full summary of the project, how many entities were migrated for defects, manual tests, and so on, even with relationships. Detailed migration summary you will be able to find also inside of the migration reports. This one. It will create a folder by the date and time from your starting when you start a migration. Also, the HTML report you can find in this folder, and if you open it, you will see exactly the information for requirement documents, how many entities, what specific entities were failed or pending, and also you have a log file, migrator log, and if you open the log, you will see everything that you saw inside of command prompt. And also the warnings and errors you will see in this particular log. After each migration, I'm strongly recommend to you to run the migration over into the resume mode, because sometimes you will have some entities failed, for example, for attachments. If you have also in this case for attachments, let me see. If you will have this parameter set it to false, the attachments errors or warnings will be treated as errors. And if this is false, the entire entity will be failed. So after you will fix, for example, the attachment error and do the migration in resume mode, the migration will retry to migrate that entity. In resume mode, it's only checking all entities again, and all entities that were failed will retry to migrate again.
Okay, so in this mode, it will only retry the failed ones, but it will not duplicate the ones that were already successful.
Exactly.
Okay, sounds good.
Exactly. So it's very useful when you have issues or some entities that were not failed, that were failed in migration mode. just try to run inside of the resume mode, and if it's not fixed, you will need to made some of changes, or maybe that entity is corrupted, or attachments will be corrupted, or something like that.
Okay, sure. Understand.
But usually for extensions, for files, file attachments, will be by this particular uh, parameter, that inside of attachments file extensions whitelist is not available that particular extension file. So much more details about this you will can find in here in ALM Octane Help Center. Just type in here parameters, parameter, and inside of configuration parameters you will see each kind of parameter is using, and what specific can have these parameters. Okay, so let's try to see the configure the migration, how it went. I'm starting to present the customization. Just save it. And let's check. Okay, so um, I can see in here all the lists that were migrated, also with a total number. For example, component status, which is migrated over with error, maintenance, not implemented, ready, under development values, and so on for each kind of this list. For example, this operating system, is migrated, and if I open it here, I will it will show me exactly the folder structure with the values. So, for example, this one, operating system, it will be the root folder, MS Windows 2003, for example, and 2003 server. For each folder in sub item will be treated as value inside of Octane after the migration. The custom fields can be found in here. Let's say for defects, and if I'm choosing to show only the user defined fields, I can see the total number is 26. So in QC, I'm not having 26 custom fields. It because some system fields from ALM QC will be migrated over as custom field in Octane. For example, entity ID is the defect ID from QC. And for example, same for, let me see. Actual fix time and actual fix time. I can see that also the type of this custom field or system field is migrated over as integer. If it's a string domain, let me see, project, it's a list field detected in cycle, it's a number, and in detected in cycle, just a second. Detected version and migrated over as uh, string, since Octane does not provide UDF of type sprint. That's why is migrated over as a string type field. Didn't know. um, okay, so in this way will be for each kind of type of entities. For example, for manual tests, I can see that I have only few custom fields without this custom field that we created already during the migration. Also, I recommend for each migration that you will perform to not be editable by any kind of user, to not be available for users, to modify the information between inside of the project, because the migrator tool is not a synchronizer, it's just a migration. It only copies the information from QC and migrates over to Octane. And also, if I'm running again the migration, it will not update the data on the second migration. Okay. Okay, so I can see here that the total number of defects are 57, and also in Octane are 57. So in this case, all defects were migrated over. Also for finding each kind of defect, I can search inside of Octane by the entity ID field, which is this one. I'm knowing for sure that is this defect that I'm looking into it. Also, you remember that in configuration file you had this configuration for BG description for these two fields to be migrated over inside of description field in Octane. If you will delete those parameters, it will migrate over only the description as it is inside of Octane. Also, you can see that the status of this defect is in open, same in here, with severity very high, product area, let's open that one, product area, and we can see that is booking system, which is matching inside of QC. For relations, is supported only by manual runs to entities and some of test name, let me see, test cases will not be migrated over. For example, LR scenario is not supported by migrator tool to be migrated. So it will migrate only by the type manual. Also, for example, to show you one type of relation, here you can see a trace to another defect, from another defect, and to another defect, and also to a manual run. This one, for example, if I enable the entity ID, I can see that it's manual run with ID 12. I can see that it's in status failed. Also the report. And I can see exactly which step were failed. And also the linkage between manual run and defect. The requirements can be found inside of requirements module. Also with folder structure. The Octane is not supporting to have on a same level requirement documents with requirement folders. So these 5 requirement documents during the migration will be migrated over into a root folder in Octane. The migrator tool is creating this root folder automatically. And also I can open and I can see the details. Also for requirement which is very important. The requirement type from QC is migrated over inside of requirement subtype custom field by the type of string. So for example, we can see that this specific requirement was by the type business model. Also, if it's having test related for this requirement document, test coverage, you can see that we have only 3 tests. And let's see. Travel booking services. Okay, and if I'm open this one and I will go in view author mode, I can see that the rich text will be migrated over inside of here, but also inside of the description, migrated over as rich text. Also, this can be disabled from here by deleting these parameters. Let's see the manual tests. If I'm going in here in test grid, I will see that I have in total 98 manual tests migrated over inside of Octane, and also is matching. For example, also the manual runs can be found in here inside of this column, and you can see which one is having or not having manual runs. If I'm open the first one, I will see the information inside of this entity, and also the description among with design steps. Also can be found in here. Also the traceability from call to another test will be migrated over in Octane. The manual runs, how many manual runs are inside of this manual test. So for example, if I'm copying this name and I'm searching by the name, I will see that run name by test name. I will see that I will have 9 manual runs assigned to this manual test. The test sets will be migrated over inside of the test suites. And I can see that I have this folder, and if I navigate to this folder, it will be showing me only the containing test suites, and is available also for manual tests. Also, the subfolders can be found inside of the application module. If I open the test suite in tests tab, I will see all the tests available inside of this particular test suite, which is the execution grid inside of QC. And also the relation between test suite and manual tests are not displayed in here inside of the relation tab, only in tests. And for releases, which I forgot to mention, can be found in releases tab. We can see that we have only 3 releases inside of Octane, but only 2 releases in QC. That's why, because for setting this parameter inside of default values configuration for manual runs, which is mandatory field in Octane. So it's a dummy release created by the migrator tool. We can see that also the number of sprints in here, and also is matching in here. For example, 10.5, it's having 2 for 6 sprints and 5 sprints for second release. If I open and go to timeline tab, I also can find in here the sprints with a name and ID inside of the name as a prefix. Okay, so pretty much in this way is migrating a project, and how it's you can configure the configuration file and run the migration.
Okay, that looks good. So what about the libraries and the test resources in ALM Octane? Those are not supported for the migration. Is that correct?
No, only the manual tests are
That's fine.
supported to be migrated.
Okay.
See. The entities supported by Octane can be found in functional
Sure.
scope,
Right.
test suites, and manual tests.
Okay.
So
Okay, yeah. No, I think that was very good. I think we have enough information now to at least get started.
also, if you will encounter any issues, you can approach me anytime, um, and I will try to help you to fix those issues.
Okay, sure, that sounds great.
Okay, so what can we say now is the next step? I guess, guys, you are going to try to do this at least for one project.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do, as like Dorothy wanted to plan, I think we'll try and take one of our projects from ALM and play with the migrator tool to see if we can get this right. I think what we'll do is we will attempt to migrate one of the projects from ALM into our test instance of the ALM Octane that we had. And if that goes successfully, then we can go ahead and attempt to migrate it into our prod instance. And that'll kind of be our
When do you
final.
think? When do you think you are going to start playing with this?
If I had to guess, I'm not sure exactly of Dorothy's schedule on this, but I would have to say probably next week.
Okay. So,
I
do you
think
want
I
us to
want to get it
have
done as soon as
another?
possible.
Of course. Do you want us to have another meeting and another checkpoint on the week of February 10? Or do you think that 1 week will be enough, or maybe 2 weeks, or when do you want to have it?
Let me talk with Dorothy and see what our timeline is on that. If things seem to be going well, we may not need to have one as soon. We may be able to have one later. So
Okay.
I think we let us maybe we'll play with this for a little bit and go through one round. Go ahead. Go ahead, Cosmin.
Sorry, I
We cannot hear
heard
you.
you.
No, he was saying that they are going to start working on the tool with one of the projects. They are going to try this next week, and we were discussing when might be the next checkpoint meeting. At this point, they don't know. It's going to be, I guess, based on the results they can get from this tool. For the moment, we're not going to schedule anything. We are just going to wait for their feedback so we can go from there. Is that okay?
Okay, from my side, it's okay. Also, if you encounter any kind of issues, feel free to reach me out. I will gladly here to help you.
That's what I
Sure.
wanted to
Yeah, and
to
we'll be
mention,
doing
Scott.
that.
If
We'll
you have
probably
any
be doing that.
problems, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say we'll probably be doing that via email. We may not necessarily need to set up a meeting for it unless it's like a serious issue that we actually need to have one a video conference or something for to show an example or to see how the resolution can be solved. Yeah, but I think any issues maybe by email would probably be best at first because I don't think we're probably not gonna have big issues or serious issues.
Okay, I understand. And also one quick note. Let me share again my screen. Inside of the Octane configuration, for example, if you will migrate in SAS, you will have to add one more parameter, which is location blacklist with this, with no value inside. I just forgot to mention that about SAS. I ran the migration in locally on-prem, and I don't need that that
Okay.
parameter.
Okay.
And also maybe you will have to use a proxy. Let me see where. Control F proxy. Yes, at page 4, you will have all the information about proxy location, proxy username, and proxy password, which is optional, these two parameters. But
Okay,
if
that
you're,
might be necessary to get past our firewall rules.
yeah.
We'll look into that. Yeah, we'll look into that. Definitely look into that. Thank you.
Also, I will double check to see exactly if I already shared with you the tool and all the files necessary.
Yes, you did. We've already downloaded it.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. Brilliant.
Okay. Well, I think that all sounds great. We'll see what we can do. I do have another meeting I need to get to, so thank you very much. This was very helpful. This was very helpful.
You're welcome.
You guys,
And
I'm going to be
sorry for-
traveling next week, but through email, I will be available. Okay.
Say that again, Veronica.
I will be traveling next week, but through email, I will be available.
Okay. Okay. That's great.
Okay. Thank you, guys.
All right. Thank y'all.
thank you very much.
Have a nice
Have a,
weekend. Bye-bye.
All right.
have
Y'all
a
too.
nice
Bye
day.
bye.
Bye-bye.
Are you there? Still
Yeah.
there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
I was just going to ping you. Do you mind if you can just share this recording?
Yeah, I'm just trying to see exactly where is saving and how to stop it.
Okay. Okay, perfect. Excellent. Thank you very much. I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you as well. Have a nice day and weekend.
Thank you. Yeah, same for you. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.